Okay, welcome to Catechesis. This is a very special Sunday. You know, our texts and our prayer really emphasizing the building up of the church and who we are as the body of Christ, as living stones of a spiritual house. And so it's very neat. This wasn't actually planned this way. I don't think anybody looked at the lectionary and said, oh, this is the Sunday we want the vestry to come and tell us about what their vision is for the church. But that's what we have this morning. We have our vestry members with us to give us some ideas of things that might be coming up, and also to communicate the vision of how we can be the best expression of the body of Christ in this little town of Wheaton, Illinois.
Good morning, everybody. It's been a few months since I've gotten up in front of everybody. I was just telling Jim, it's good to get out of your comfort zone every now and then. Welcome to our Vestry Town Hall Catechesis. My name is Sarah Stanley, and I'm the senior warden, and we'll get into what that means in a few minutes. We're really glad to have you here. Actually, the purpose for this morning is really simple. We just want it to be a chance for you to get to know the work of the vestry a little bit more, and for us to hear from you. So with that in mind, we've kept the agenda straightforward. I'm going to start us off just with an introduction to what the vestry is doing, who we are, and then we'll have each vestry member just introduce themselves and share about their respective ministry areas. We'll then open it up just for a time of questions or comments that you'd like to ask us, or just share with the community. So the first question is, what is a vestry? And for those who are not, steeped in Anglicanism, this is a common question. So basically, a vestry is similar to what a board of a nonprofit is. Vestry members are legal representatives of a church and have responsibility for the church's finances, their property, and issues related to human resources. The vestry consists of 9 lay people and the rector. So Father James serves as the presiding officer of the vestry, and then there are 2 wardens or leaders who serve as the lay leaders. The senior warden, which is what my role is a support person for the rector and represents the parish to him. The junior warden, who's Brad, Kathy, has responsibility for the church's property. So vestry members are comprised of adult members of the congregation and serve 3-year terms. At our annual meeting in January, 3 new members are elected, and then the 3 members who have served their 3-year term cycle off. We seek nominations for new vestry members in the fall, so please be on the lookout for that. We strive to have the vestry represent different parts of All Souls, including people of different ages, genders, how long they've been Christians or at All Souls. You don't have to have special skills to be on the vestry. You just have to have a willingness to do it. And then we also meet monthly, usually on the 2nd Thursday of the month, and everyone is welcome to come. So if you ever want to just come hang out with the vestry, come hang out with us this Thursday, actually. So a key part of vestry duties is that each vestry member gets to work with a particular ministry area to help encourage and support it. Ministry areas include things like youth and children's ministry, Souls on Mission, which is our outreach, etc. There's a complete list of those ministry areas, their leaders, and then the vestry representatives on the All Souls website. It's under the About section, under our leadership section under that. If you haven't taken a look at that, I would definitely urge you to. The list is long and it's amazing. There's just a lot of great work that's being done by a lot of people. All right. So part of the vestry liaison work includes working out the annual budget with their ministry leader, but it also means like meeting with them, encouraging them, being a sounding board for them, offering input, praying for them. So there's a huge spiritual component as well, and the spiritual and the financial aspects intermix. And then communication is another key aspect of vestry work, communicating with the parish at large about what's happening with All Souls, and also listening and receiving feedback and answering questions. Of course, that's the purpose of this town hall, but you are enthusiastically welcome to talk to any vestry member, ask questions at any time, and if we don't know the answer, we can find someone who will. I'm going to turn this over shortly to my esteemed vestry colleagues, but before I do that, I just want to share about a few of the initiatives we've been developing over these past years that are really important. I think it's really important to remember that the ultimate work of the vestry is to seek God's mission for all souls, in collaboration with our clergy. And that's exciting, and that's essential. So one of the things that we've done in the last few years is actually establish an annual spiritual retreat for the vestry, where we meet together, we share, we plan, and we pray. Ruth Haley Barton's book, Finding God's Will in Community, has been really helpful for us in that. It's provided some theological and practical insights about how to do that. And so one of the things that actually came out of it was a formal agreement where vestry members commit to seeking God's will together, to giving grace, to participating in conflict transformation, and to communicating openly with each, which there's a whole lot to unpack under each of those areas, but I'll spare you now. We've also done things like created a vestry member job description, which hopefully empowers and provides clarity for us. And we've also added just a new member orientation. In fact, we had ours a week or so ago where there was food and wine, which is a pretty nice way to do an orientation. It's just to help new vestry members be comfortable with what are being asked and get familiar with some of the behind the scenes, what's happening. And I need to say a thanks to Christy Marcus just for really playing an important role in getting some of these things established in her leadership. So we're really glad and grateful that those things can continue. There's more to say, but I'm going to turn it over to Brad Cathy right now, our junior warden.
Thank you, Sarah. It's fun to see Sarah grow into this position. We all have to grow into it because we come with little experience. So as junior warden, I partner with the senior warden and our rector, and mainly in just anything that gets a little sensitive or anything that relates to personnel. So we meet with our staff and do little reviews and check-ins throughout the year. I also oversee the facility and grounds, and I do this with the help of our sexton, who is Doug Zimmerman, and he's doing an absolute great job. He oversees our cleaning folks, I don't know what else to call them, and our landscaping. He also is going to help out with the newly formed Garden Guild. We have a special project for facilities this year, which you have heard about, probably not seen much, but we are going to do some remodeling, new flooring here in the nave, and then we're going to be doing some remodeling downstairs for our children's ministries. We're also working on accessibility. So you've seen the ramp go in last year, and then we're going to also have a chairlift in the stairway. Just ways that people can access our facility without any issues. I also am liaison to the Belonging Committee, which we used to call membership or assimilation, but now it's called. You can tell I resisted a little bit. But if you were at our newcomers luncheon last week, you will have seen the work of the Belonging Committee, which is headed up by Tammy Lewis and Ali Arcadi. I also attend the exciting Tuesday operations meeting with Sarah, where we kind of take a look at what happened the previous Sunday and what we're looking forward to, some of the mechanics of how things work around here. And not really related to vestry, but I also am a verger. I get to wear the crow suit about every 3 weeks. And I also work with Jennifer Merck on communications. So, any questions for me?
Let's maybe save the questions for last.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Brad. Do you want to just go on down the row? Is that where, Melinda, you're in the...
I'm the next elected one. All right, good morning, everyone. For those who I have not met yet, my name is Melinda Mahoney. I and my family have been coming to All Souls since I think about 2014. Time flies, right? It's hard to imagine that it's been that long. I am connected, and I just want to make sure I bring up my list so I don't forget any pieces of it. I'm connected with the Community Formation Group and Deacon Mary. We've been really getting to know each other here in this short time that I've been a vestry member. That community formation houses a lot of different things. House groups, adult catechesis, retreats, small gatherings, the library, intercessory prayer, Bible studies. A lot of stuff, right? And that's what's exciting about it from my perspective, is the fact that it encompasses so many things that touches, a huge portion of our congregation. So the thing that when I think about that comes to mind is really there is a need, and I'll ask all of you here this morning for that. And the need is agility. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is agility in, praying for all of these groups and all of the members, if you can. Praying for Deacon Mary because she's got a lot on her plate, certainly. Agility in, if you are not involved in any of these groups, thinking about, maybe it could be time for me to get involved. And agility in thinking about also if you're asked to help. Because, again, a lot of things that touch many people within our congregation, that requires a lot of heavy lifting. So, other hands always make the load lighter. All right, thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Bruce Knowlton. I have called All Souls my home faith community since the very beginning, a long time ago. We started this adventure with young children in children's ministries. You'll see why this becomes relevant. And almost 20 years in, I still have young children in children's ministries. And yes, I do know where babies come from, but thanks for your concern. So spiritual formation for our children, and I'm liaison to our children's ministries, has been in All Souls DNA right from day one, thanks to the vision and just sheer hard work of the people who organized this startup almost 20 years ago. And it's been just a huge part of the core of what we do ever since then. And we don't do it the same way that everyone else does it. This was really brought home to me during COVID tide, and I would oftentimes attend children's worship over here in the garden alongside the building rather than the main service over here on the other side of the building to keep track of my majorly unruly young son. And you know what? I never once felt like I was missing out on anything important. The depth, the richness, the space for contemplation, it was beautiful, it was wonderful, and so that's why I'm super enthusiastic about it, as well as invested. And given that it's so core to our identity here, children's ministries take up a shockingly tiny footprint in the budget. The real riches here of All Souls are the people who engage with our children every week. So really, you all here is really what makes the place tick. I'm supposed to talk about needs coming up here, so we always need more people. Just to put on the programming that we're doing right now, I think takes about like 20 people on a Sunday, something like is that, I could be off, but that was the number I was given, and it's close. This is before we go adding children's programming to any other services we might add, say even the 8:30 service that we've been doing. So people are always in need. Facilities, I'm really excited about the renovations we're doing, modeling. And what we do downstairs is going to make such a huge difference for how well we can conduct our children's ministries down there. So that is very exciting. And then we need to be looking ahead years down the line to transitioning leadership as well. Jennifer Merck has really been overseeing this from the very beginning. I don't know how many more years that will last, but we all know it can't last forever. So that is one thing that we're talking about now. But in the meantime, I have no aptitude for working with children whatsoever, which is what makes it hilarious that I'm a vestry liaison. But as I look out here, there are a bunch of you who I'm sure do, and so if you're not volunteering already, please consider doing that 1 week a month, once every 5 weeks, whatever. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Megan Lynch, and my husband Greg and our 2 boys have been coming to All Souls. Well, they were born while we were here, but Greg and I have been coming for 10 years now. And I am the liaison for Care Ministries, so I have the opportunity to work really closely with Ann McCarthy, who's doing really a phenomenal job in leading the different initiatives within Care. And so I'm just going to give a shout out and a thank you to all of the volunteers who are involved in that, and I'll just start by listing them. One is Prayer Ministries, and Ann actually oversees that now. I would encourage you, if you're not part of the prayer chain, to consider just signing up for that. I find it's a great way to know about the needs in our community and to be able to lift them up in prayer as a community. And I think one of the things for those of you who might be on the prayer chain, just the opportunity to pray for things that are happening in our nation and our country. There's always a beautiful prayer that Ann offers for us to contemplate and to pray together. So Prayer Ministries is a big piece. Also underneath Care Ministries were the listening groups that we had for a few years, and Joel Erickson helped lead that. So I want to thank Joel for his efforts. We've actually now wrapped up that portion of Care Ministries, but it's been, I think, really helpful for a lot of us to be able to process and listen to each other together. Katie Schrader oversees the Care for Souls, which is where we do, I think, soul food, right? We offer food for those who are going through different challenges, maybe a new baby, sickness. So I think there's always a need for more people to sign up, to be willing to serve in that way. Probably many of us have received food at times in our lives where we've really needed that. So that's a big offering, so thank you. And then also newer, I think this initiative is underneath Care is Through the Roof Ministries, and that's really our focus on inclusion and accessibility. We've talked about from a facility standpoint how we've been working to make the building more accessible, but Karis Wood has taken on leadership of that initiative, and it's been especially a blessing for our family and including Timmy in the children's programs. But it's not just for children, and it's not just for people maybe with visible disabilities. It's for all of us who might need some additional care and support to be included in the All Souls community. So I just want to note here, if you or anyone you know within the community might need that kind of additional support, whether it's being hard of hearing or having just issues coming in and out of the building, please talk with Karis, and her team is doing a great job to support us at All Souls. So those are the different initiatives under Care, and I'll look forward to chatting more a little bit later.
Morning, I'm Jason Long. My family and I have been coming to All Souls since we moved here about 12 years ago. I'm the liaison for Souls on Mission, which, as far as I can tell, is the easiest liaison job because it's run by Father Rob and Jennifer, who kind of know what they're doing. I suspect that when I got on vestry almost 3 years ago, they assessed my aptitude and capacity and were like, you better give this guy Rob and Jennifer's ministry because it's impossible to mess it up. So it's just an awesome, it's the outreach kind of umbrella for the work the church does, and it's an awesome model that I've been able to talk about before. I talked about it a little at the annual meeting, and Rob has talked about it, Jennifer's talked about it, where essentially we the church embrace the work that you all are called to do in service to our community and try to come alongside that work, support it as necessary, pray for it as necessary, claim it when possible. And to me, it's a cool model that's very organic and sort of ground up. And so, as I said at the annual meeting, I think I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but one of the needs that we have is because it's sort of from the bottom up rather than the top down, we need to know what people are doing, what needs are seen in the community, what organizations you all might be working with or work you might be doing that could use support to bring to us. So like I've said before, it's like we need people's, radars to be on, and we need to hear from people and know what folks are doing. And that's what's exciting about it, and it's what we need. And I would finally just say it's my last year on vestry. Sort of an overall maybe take on it is it's just been an incredible honor and privilege to be on the vestry. It's not at all, I'm a prof at Wheaton College. I know what like institutional service is like, and sometimes it's a real grind. And vestry isn't a grind at all. I haven't found it to be a grind at all. It's a privilege. It's an awesome group. It's a really cool way to really get involved and see what the church is all about. And it's been really inspiring for me, in particular, the way the group is dedicated to spiritual discernment as a model for leading and decision making. So, it's something I think for each of us to consider, for each of you to consider. If you're ever asked to be on the vestry, I would urge you to say yes if at all possible. I don't think you'd regret it.
Matt Milliner, my wife and I, Denise and I have been attending, same with Jason, 12 years. Peter and Polly are our children. And let me echo that with Jason. We're looking ahead. I just got on 3 years, and then I passed the baton to one of you because I already feel changed by seeing behind the curtain, seeing how things work, and being so encouraged in that respect. I'm a Christian actively because of youth ministry. And it's a miraculous thing. Maybe some of you are as well. God spoke to my life as a 15-year-old. And in that 90s model of youth ministry, there was kind of a risk for it to be an appendage to the main congregation, almost sometimes even in opposition to it. It's not how it works here. Father Rob is in charge of youth ministry, and I am working with him in that regard on the vestry. And he also sees that as a ministry to families. And that's one of the positives. It's integrated with the rest of the church. We have Avi Hill, who is working with us in the youth this summer, who has been hired as Father Rob does hospice training, which is really exciting. And so she has taken on that role. If you volunteer in the youth ministry, could you raise your hand real quick? Quick acknowledgement and thanks to those who do that. It's a hugely important ministry. And again, it's not a satellite. It's embedded within what we do here. So if you would like to join those ranks, let me know or let Father Rob know. We could always use more, but keep it at the center as a part of family, not something off to the side.
It would have been so nice if we could have ended with Matt. My name is Lee Hoffner, and my wife Teresa and I have been attending All Souls since 2014. My ministry liaison area is what's called diocesan participation. This area is, it is all about our participation with the Diocese of Pittsburgh. I'd call it more of an administrative area than a ministry, but what we do is we pay to the diocese approximately 5% of our annual budgeted expenditures. And as we work with the diocese, they help with discernment for diaconal or priesthood ordination tracts. Membership in the diocese is a gift to the clergy, for it gives them some community that isn't solely within the parish and connects them more intimately with the province through the mechanisms of diocesan participation. A key name that you've already heard at least once is the name Anne McCarthy. She's the person with whom I liaise. She is my partner in crime in bulletin production, and she's our diocesan representative. She's been this for All Souls for many years, and in a plurality of dioceses. She brings much wisdom and grace and experience to this work, and I would consider her irreplaceable. So, all of this talk of retiring to the south of France one day has simply got to stop.
And then one of our members is actually downstairs, and that's Melody Schwarting, but she sent me something that I'm going to read on her behalf. So Melody and her husband Marcus have been at All Souls for about 2.5 years, and she's downstairs right now with Dana Dotson teaching pre-K and kindergarten Sunday school, part of those children's worship volunteers we were talking about. So her liaison area is Seasons for Souls, led by the inimitable Denise Milliner. If you've participated in a Seasons for Souls event like St. Nicholas, Shrove Tuesday, or the Great Vigil, you know how important these rhythms are liturgically and communally. The liturgical year is a big part of what drew Melody to Anglicanism, so supporting Seasons for Souls is close to her heart. Putting on events with excellence requires a lot of volunteer support, so please consider this an invitation. It's not a weekly or even a monthly commitment, but occasional. For example, the Great Vigil had a setup team who decorated the undercroft and put out tables, a serving team who managed food and beverages, and a team who cleaned and put things away. So we could use the undercroft on Easter morning. Seasons for Souls also supports the life of the church by facilitating baptisms, weddings, funerals, and more. And 1 year ago today, we celebrated Father Rob's ordination in the undercroft, thanks to Seasons for Souls. So if you'd like to support Seasons for Souls, please reach out to Denise. Melody would like to thank Denise for her labor and imagination, and to volunteers like Karen Mazzara, who voluntarily work on these holidays to make it all possible, and beautifully so. Contribute to the mission of the church by making this space beautiful, welcoming, and joyous. So thank you for all your seen and unseen contributions. I don't know if you've just heard this theme, just the thinking for so many people. And as senior warden, I'm representatives with a lot of different areas, which includes worship. And worship is the bulletins, it's the ushers, it's our altar guild, it's our music committee. We work with operations, which is Jennifer, our parish life facilitator. I work with legal, Mark Tater, our chancellor. And ad hoc committees, which includes the misconduct reporting committee. So just so you guys know, there's a draft of that is being reviewed right now by our chancellor, and will most likely go to vestry in June. So there's just an update on that issue. So I'm going to open this now just to any questions or comments that people might have about. And it doesn't have to be just the things that we've talked about, but if there are other things just about the church, about the vestry, or even for the clergy, we can drag them up here as well. So, Adam. Let's see if I can do double duty.
Well, thanks, Sarah, and all of you so much for sharing with us. This is just a quick kind of procedural question.
Yeah.
When we vote on new vestry members at our annual meeting back in January, I, for one, was pretty excited about Melinda, and pretty excited about Melody. Matt, snuck in.
Uh-huh.
So my question is, have we ever considered providing like a slate of candidates I'm kidding about Matt.
To be elected?
Yeah,
Gen-
at our annual meeting as opposed to a simple like up-down vote on
Yeah.
Are you really looking for a recall?
Yeah. So the question, no, that's a good question. So the question has been, have we ever considered a general election for vestry members? And it's my understanding, and maybe somebody else can jump in as well, is that it has been considered at different times. And it's been done before. And it's been decided that we didn't like it. I think there are a couple concerns. One, that could turn into a popularity contest, right? Or one, we didn't want people to feel badly if they didn't get elected. So, I mean, these are just some of the reasons that I've heard. I will say that one of the things that we've worked at doing is trying to make this more accessible to people, is doing the nomination process and welcoming input from the congregation over multiple weeks, so people have a chance to speak into that process. And so currently then what happens is the 3 people who are getting off of vestry receive those nominations and then review them with the rector, with those things in mind that we talked about earlier in terms of wanting to represent different areas of the parish, different genders. I think, like Christie's year, I think they got 3 female members because the year before it had been 3 male. I mean, so just kind of those kinds of thinking, we're just trying to make sure that the vestry is representing everybody. So, and I know I think we considered that question in the last year or 2 as well, and just decided not to at this point. My sister's church, my sister's church, she goes to an Anglican church in Lexington, Kentucky. And what people do, they nominate people and they actually draw names from a hat. So it's kind of biblical, picking lots. But anyway, I don't think that we've considered that either.
Is it fair to say that the way the congregation participates is in the nomination? So that's the time to speak up?
That's the time to speak up. And so we want to make sure that we're doing a good job of communicating about the nominating process and if people are interested. And yeah, so anyway.
Well, I just wanted to add, one of the reasons, like Sarah pointed out, one of the problems we had was when we had like 6 people, the people that didn't get selected, they never wanted to serve again. So they felt like, well, I was up for a vote, nobody wanted me at the time. And then they were excellent candidates, but then when you were approaching the following year, it's like, no, I was up, I don't want to run again, right? So that's the kind of problem we face. And it's a difficult challenge, but.
We don't need it. We don't need the mic.
All the jobs everybody does in this church, where are the big holes that are coming up? And are we going to be able to fill them with volunteers? Are we going to need to hire? Should we be training people waiting in the wings? I mean, if Anne goes to the south of France, like,
Yeah.
what in the world are we going to do?
So Karis's question is, are we thinking about hiring people? I mean, are there holes that we have? And I might look at Father James to jump in on this question. Yeah. Not only I might do that, I will say, and I think I think there are holes. And, we've been around for a long time now and do so much through volunteers, and that's really wonderful, and that volunteers' gifts are welcomed. But there are also just those institutional questions of how do we continue? I mean, what are those core things that we need to make sure that are continuing? So I know, like Father James and I are actually going to be meeting in a week or so to talk about maybe some administrative support that we might need, and that could be one step in that. I will say, so we talked about the vestry being responsible for human resources, issues related to human resources. So one of the things that Father James has actually taken the lead on is doing job descriptions for people, because just even having that clarity helps us see where the holes are. And then so we are working on a final draft actually of a job description for Jennifer, who is our parish life facilitator. So once that gets finalized, then what are those holes, and then do we need to hire people? So I think the answer is yes. I don't know. Do you?
I'll say a little about that. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Karis. I mean, this is one of those things that does keep me up at night, thinking about how to organize All Souls. And it's been pressed upon me just in this last semester in terms of like regular attendance. So if you can remember, like say, 2019 or what have you, I think our average Sunday attendance was around 210, 215. I think that's what John had said there. And at that point, we had 2 full-time priests, a volunteer priest, and 3 deacons. And this last spring, we're back up to about 200 on a Sunday morning, but we have 1 full-time priest, 1 part-time priest, and a volunteer deacon who puts in a ton of work, but in non-stipendiary fashion. So even in terms of like All Souls' history, in terms of clerical like staff, whatever, we're sort of mismatched from where we once were. We've done a lot of work, I think, and especially again, about Christy and this whole like ministry leadership chart that we have now. We've done a lot of work in the last couple of years, getting a better handle on all these various ministries and who's engaged in them and who's doing what. And I think that's really been a wonderful process. I think we're maybe now moving to the stage where like now we know what's going on, we can think a bit more about how to more effectively do this from an organizational structure, or from an organizational perspective, given clergy, given lay leaders, given volunteers, and then that also factors into the budget too. I think, from my perspective, we're still a little bit stabilizing our understanding of our own budget, because everything from 2020 to the present has been a bit unstable, but my hunch is that going into this kind of next budgeting season, we'll have a bit more realistic understanding of just what our budget is and what we can do with the money that might be pledged or coming in the next year. So let's just kind of say, yeah, I'm kind of thinking about that a lot, and I don't have anything concrete right now, and I may not have anything concrete in the near future, but you can be assured that I'll be up in the middle of the night thinking about it.
I've got a question, Sarah, for you. So, one of the conversations that have been participated in vestry is the question of burnout. You see someone who's really working hard, and you think, well, how long can they do that? And then, would it be offensive to go up to them and say, hey, are you done? It's like, whoa, we don't want that. And so, it's hard to gauge the temperature of possible burnout, or someone's doing great. And so one of the things that as we ask that, we know that there are places that are desperate for volunteers, as you heard. It helps us to hear from you. Sometimes someone needs to be addressed specifically. Hey, we would like you to help, and then you feel honored and brought forward. But if we could see if you have a burbling need that I would like to help in this way, it would help us if you actively came to us and said, I've got gifts in this area, or I see struggle downstairs and I'm going to step in. We are looking, just so you know, we're thinking, how do we find that? It would really help us to know from you, and even if you know someone who's not in this room right now, hey, we might need your help in that way. We don't want to face the burnout problem. We want to address it early, and we need more people doing more things. Is that fair, Sarah?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful.
And I'm scared of mics. But, I think even caring for each other, for a community, one of the things is if you are suffering burnout from volunteering for a thing, it's okay to step back. It really, I know that we're recruiting volunteers, but our people are the most important, really. And burnout, if you feel like you need to step back and something, that's really okay. So you can talk to your ministry leader, you can talk to your vestry rep. It's not, and that's one of the things, like even when I was asked to be senior warden, it's like, Sarah, it's not all on you, right? We're a team. Things are not gonna end, if somebody needs to step back. So there's definitely a huge amount of permission, just so people know. Other questions? Yes, I'm going to answer. That is a very important question. Yes, vestry meets on Thursday evenings, the second Thursday of the month in the Undercroft, and there are snacks. So, yeah.
What's the protocol for those of us who are not on vestry when we come?
So the question is, what's the protocol for people who are not on vestry who come to vestry meetings? And
Bring extra snacks.
bring extra snacks is what Bruce says. You're welcome. I think that, that's such an important question. Oh, Mark can speak to that. Hey, Mark, can I?
Okay, there we go. Okay, so the vestry meeting is open to members of the congregation. It's not open to the public per se. There are from time to time maybe an executive session that is limited to vestry and particular people that are invited by the vestry. However, in 18 years, nobody has ever showed up to just watch.
That's actually not true. That's not true. That's not true. I know just in my terms, so that I'm in my third year, that we've had people come in and observe. I can think of 2 people. So that can happen. So don't be afraid.
I stand corrected. We
Don't
had,
be-
on Zoom, we had 1 that I can recall.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but
Just how, but you're welcome. So I think, and if you have questions, I think we would want to answer them during the vestry meeting.
I mean, the typical procedure in vestry meetings is to have a time for questions and comments. However, since we don't typically have anybody there, we've never actually fleshed out that procedure.
But we're a nice group. We're a nice group. So most of the time, most of the time.
It'd be whole new ground. Somebody should do it.
It's looking like we maybe need to call it to a close. But if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. And I just, please pray for us for the vestry. And I also just want to thank our vestry members for being up here. It's not and just the work you're doing. It's a cool group to be a part of. So thanks, everybody.